Right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's webinar, Why Portugal is the Perfect Place for Your Golden Years and Retirement. And the webinar is today, Wednesday, the 31st of July, 2024, 4 p.m. Hello and welcome. Now, many of you know me. My name is Christina Hipsley. I'm the General Manager of the Portuguese Chamber of Commerce in the UK. And throughout the year, we run our Moving to Portugal shows, live and virtual, like this webinar. We run them here in the UK to help all of you find out more about how to move to Portugal. And amazingly, over 7,000 people have already attended our live events, and our database is growing all the time. So we've learned a lot about the sort of questions that you want answers to. Quick reminder, our next Moving to Portugal show, live show and seminars, will be in central London on the 17th of October 2024, so not long. If you want to come along, please go to movingtoportugal.org.uk to register for our seminars. Now, most of you will know we have a new government in the UK and a new government in Portugal. So we're going to be giving you all the latest updates on tax and visas and the possible changes to come from both the governments. So make sure you come along, get some expert advice, and of course, you can talk to our exhibitors as well. Now, we know that retirement is particularly important to you, our audience, and where to spend your later years is a big talking point. So today is a relevant theme. Portugal is the perfect place for your later years, and we're going to tell you why in just a moment. Just before that, quick housekeeping. This webinar is going to be around 45, 50 minutes, no longer. 2 short presentations, and then we'll take questions from the audience after that for a few minutes. So if you've got any questions, please put them in the Q&A box, which you can see at the bottom of your screen. And we'll come to them at the end of the 2 short presentations. And we'll also be sending you the presentations to your email inbox after the webinar's finished. So don't worry about taking notes. And of course, you'll have full contact details of our speakers at the end of the webinar. So you can always contact them directly for a one-to-one or to clarify any questions you might have, okay? Because we're going to cover quite a lot of ground today. Now, why is Portugal such an attractive place for retirees? Now, we know that there's a long tradition between the English and the Portuguese, the English moving to Portugal to retire because of the Gulf, etc. But we're here to tell you there's a lot of other reasons and a lot more exciting and fun reasons to do with health and lifestyle and your welfare and your later years, which we're going to be talking about now. So to explain that theme, I've invited 2 of our chamber members, Adalberto Puca from Global Citizen Solutions and also Jack Chevelle from Life Plan Resorts Lisbon to talk to us about what they do in Portugal in the retirement sector. Now, firstly, let me introduce Adalberto. So as you can see, Adalberto, who you're going to meet in a moment, works for a company called Global Citizen Solutions. Now, they're a worldwide company in the sense that they help expatriates relocate to all sorts of countries around the world, but Portugal is their most popular destination because Portugal has the most attractive and appealing tax benefits, lifestyle, etc. So in a moment, you'll discover that there's nothing Adalberto doesn't know about the different visa options you can have and the ways that you can resettle. So we're going to go through some of the questions about retirement visas and other working visas that you can have if you want to move to reside in Portugal. So Adalberto will be talking to us about that and answering questions from you at the end. And because we know that visas is a big theme for everybody here, they want to know how to actually make the move and what they need to do. Now, our second speaker after Adalberto will be our friend and colleague Jack Chevelle, who is the founder and chairman of Life Plan Resorts. Now, as Jack will tell you, he's a man with a mission. Jack has a lifetime's experience in the healthcare sector, first as a doctor himself, and latterly as the CEO of some very big businesses, which he'll tell you about. But he has a particular passion for the brain and brain science and how that affects aging. And he's going to be telling us why he's pioneering the concept of a new later living lifestyle in Portugal, and why he's chosen to site his first resort in Portugal near Lisbon. So he's going to tell us quite a lot about that, much of which I think you won't know. Okay, right. Now, we'll talk a bit more about life plan in a moment, but what I'd like to do now first is to go back to our first speaker, Adalberto, so that we're going to go through some of the detail of visas and how to move to Portugal. And then we'll come to the lifestyle and the aging aspects. So Adalberto, if I could hand over to you to talk to our audience about the practicalities and the visa options about moving to Portugal as an older person, potentially. Adalberto.
Brilliant. Thank you for the very kind introduction, Christina. If we can go to the next slide, just briefly to introduce Global Citizen Solutions. So we are actually a British company, so we began in the UK in 2016. We remain headquartered in the UK, however, with the objective of assisting individuals relocate, invest worldwide. We have opened our doors to several countries. Very quickly, Portugal became probably the most popular country we work with at the moment. And there are several reasons which we'll explore as we proceed. But we assist individuals in all types of cases, from entrepreneurs to retirees, or just young families looking to move to a country that offers a better lifestyle. Our team is comprised of individuals that are fluent in English and other languages as well, to ensure that we can cater to a very wide market. But the UK is certainly one of the largest markets that we work with still. If we can go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so the question asked by Christina, why Portugal? And also again to the next slide. Portugal is a country that over the last few years, especially actually since the pandemic, has been widely spoken, widely explored by individuals from various countries, particularly English-speaking countries, because Portugal does have a population that speaks English very well, very widely. So it is a country that's growing quite significantly, especially with comparison to the rest of the EU. It's probably in the top 5 of the fastest growing economies out there. And that's part due to that movement of labor that we're seeing into Portugal. We're seeing this talented workforce moving into the country, bringing with it a lot of investment, and with that comes improved services across the board. So the living standards that have always been quite high, with very relatively low cost of living, is only now getting better. So we're not only talking about the public policies that exist within Portugal, healthcare, which we'll explore shortly, but also in the private sectors, we're seeing companies become more sophisticated, catering to a more demanding market. So Portugal is certainly going through a very attractive and very interesting transition period. Portugal is also a very safe country. It is always ranked amongst the top 10 safest countries in the world, which makes it very attractive for individuals across the board, but also to retirees who are looking to the next step in their life into a country where you're not going to have to worry about such things. But very importantly as well, in addition to safety, is healthcare. So Portugal does have access to healthcare once you become a resident. As we see it with the UK, with the NHS, there are significant troubles. That's not always the case with Portugal, but our clients often supplement that that public healthcare with additional private insurance. And that's something I'm sure that Jack will be able to explore in his presentation as well. But probably one of the main reasons why individuals reach out to us looking to move to Portugal is really to get on a path to a European citizenship. following Brexit, unfortunately, the loss of European access that Brits once had really makes it very difficult for individuals who kept and who felt European, who kept that relationship with continental Europe. Portugal offers a fast path to obtain a citizenship that grants you that that freedom of access that we once had, and also the proximity. So Portugal, not only is it close enough to the UK that you can live a very high quality lifestyle, but always hop on a plane, spend a couple hours very quickly back in London, back to the UK to visit families, but also to to access other European countries makes it a very attractive geographic location to be in as well. If we can go into the next slide. I think that just reaffirms, what I was mentioning. Really, it's the attractiveness of moving to Portugal. I will explore the possibility of bringing family, dependent family, alongside the freedoms and opportunities of becoming a resident in Portugal, but most importantly, choosing a very safe residence to spend your later years. Can we go to the next slide, please? Now, very importantly, and I've seen already some questions requesting information on the delays in the applications for residency in Portugal. I just want to very quickly touch on this point, which was a nationality law change that happened in Portugal earlier this year. If we can go on to the next slide, please. So an amendment was passed in the Portuguese Parliament to Article 15, which now means that the delays in the application processes, so the government is actually taking accountability for the facts that they exist. So it will make it so that the time when you apply for residency, it can take several months now, that is going to count towards your citizenship application. So whereas before, this was really just wasted time, just spent waiting for your residency to be approved, we're now going to capitalize on that at the later stages, and removing 6 months from the time waiting to citizenship is something quite significant as well. Next slide, please. Now, the different visa options for Portugal. Can we go on to the next slide as well? Thank you. Portugal is a country that has a very friendly attitude towards immigration, although there are delays, and that is in part to do with the attractiveness of the country, but also with how welcoming Portugal is. We see a large number of individuals often looking at Portugal as their next home. There are several visa options. I will focus on a couple of those today, being the D7 and the D8 visa, with particular emphasis on the D7. But there are several options that we assist our clients through, from employment visas to entrepreneur visas for individuals looking to set up businesses in the country, to investor visas as well. But I do want to, as I mentioned, focus particularly on the D7, as I think this will be the most attractive for our audience today. If we can go to the next slide, please. So the D7 is very straightforward. It is a passive income visa. It does require passive income only, so savings or active income from employment, unfortunately, will not count towards it, but rental income, pension, annuities, or interest on savings, those do count as passive income. Luckily, it's not a very high amount that you need to prove in order to qualify. For a single applicant, it would be 820 euros per month, which equals to the minimum wage in Portugal. To include a spouse, you need to supplement that by 50%, so an additional 410 euros, and that would be sufficient income to move to Portugal. We also need to provide evidence of what we call the means of subsistence. So as part of the D7 visa application process, you would need to open a bank account in Portugal, and in that bank account, it is recommended to have at least 12 months worth of that passive income. So for a single individual, that's just going to be around 10,000 euros. If you include a spouse on there, it goes up to around 15,000. That money is not locked in, by the way. You still have full control of your finances. It's just a signal to the Portuguese government that you have sufficient means if anything were to happen. In addition, you would need to have a proof of accommodation in Portugal. You need travel insurance. You would not need a well, you will need travel insurance to cover you for the initial phase of the application. As many of you may know, the application for the D7 actually begins here in the UK, in your countries of residency, through the Portuguese consulate, which will then result, after a few months of deliberation, it will result in an approval. That approval then comes with a scheduled date for you to attend your biometrics appointment in Portugal. So between landing in Portugal and that biometrics appointment, you will need to have travel insurance to cover you once you are in the country. From then on, once your biometrics are concluded, once your residency cards are issued, which can take right now anywhere from a couple of weeks to a few months. Once that happens, then you will have access to the National Healthcare Service. But again, with most individuals looking for supplementary healthcare to make sure you can see a physician quicker if necessary, this is something we certainly advise to explore. And again, I'm sure Jack is going to provide more information on. Now, the residency requirements. There is some confusion often about this, but the law is very straightforward. It does require the individual to not leave Portugal for longer than 6 consecutive months or 8 months in total for the duration of their visa. The initial visa duration is going to be 2 years. After that, it will be 3 years. The requirement remains the same, but provided that you spend 5 years in Portugal in those conditions, you will be able to apply for citizenship once you total 5 years, and then remembering that the timeline begins upon the first contact with the immigration authorities, which would be the submission of the application. Now, the D7 is probably the most popular program with our clients who are looking to retire in Portugal. However, we have also seen a growth in interest in the D8 visa, which is the passive income visa. It's very similar to the D7 in every single aspect mentioned, with the brief exception that the qualification criteria, the financial requirements are slightly different. So instead of passive income, you need to provide evidence that you're able to carry out your activity remotely, that you earn 4 times the minimum wage of Portugal per month. So it comes down to just over 3,200 euros, with an additional 420 for a spouse. But you will also have the same rights of residency in Portugal. You'll be able to continue running your business or working remotely and have the freedoms that anyone else would enjoy as residents of Portugal. Can we go on to the next slide, please? Now, the key benefits of those visas, just to reiterate, it does include the right to live and work in Portugal. The access to the Schengen area, it is still limited to 90 days, which every Brit already has with their passport. But once you become a citizen, you will have no more limitations on your access to the EU. Family reunification primarily links to a spouse. So the D7 visa is obtained by the main applicant, with the family reunification being applicable to any dependents from their children under the age of 18. Dependent children over the age of 18 who are in full-time education can also be included in the process. And then lastly, access to the Portuguese healthcare system. Next slide, please. So this was just a very brief introduction. If anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to answer at the end, and happy to speak with anyone after the webinar as well. Thank you.
Wonderful. Adalberto, thank you very much indeed. So that's given us a good general overview of the 2 visas that are most relevant to our audience today. And by that, I mean visas that mean you're going to go and live in Portugal and reside there and be there for tax purposes most of the year. Now, any questions, please put them in the Q&A box, and we will answer them in a little while after Jack has spoken. And we'll give you Adalberto and Jack's full details as well. Now, we're coming to ask, I'd like to introduce again our friend and colleague, Jack Cheval from Life Plan Resorts. Just before I ask Jack to take over and walk us through his presentation, I just wanted to reiterate the fact that Jack has been involved in several projects in the healthcare sector. He founded and ran Netcare, which is a huge health services company in South Africa, and was then also heavily involved in a Canadian company called CareRx, which specializes in medication dosage services for seniors. He's traveled all over the world, actually, currently spends a lot of time in the States, but an increasing amount of time in Portugal, clearly now, because he has big commitments in Portugal, and he definitely thinks Portugal has everything, which he'll tell you more about. So in a moment, I'm going to ask Jack to talk to us a little bit about his flagship project in Portugal, which reflects his increasing and evident passion for the brain and healthy aging. And his project in Portugal is called the Life Plan Resort at Lisbon. It's over 500 hectares on the Tagus estuary, beautiful. Already surrounding a golf course with river access, only 30 minutes from Lisbon. And I think, Jack, you're going to tell us a little bit about why the resort, Life Plan Resort at Lisbon, really does offer the antidote to accelerated aging, which I know is one of your very passionate subjects, which you're going to tell us more about. So tell us a little bit now about your particular passion for health and how you feel an active retirement lifestyle within a close-knit community in Portugal can actually help people live a great deal longer, which I think is basically your main aim, is it not? So Jack Chevelle, please, over to you.
Thank you. So if we could perhaps start with the first slide. So Christina, thank you for the kind words, and good afternoon, and welcome, and thank you for joining us. It's really an exciting project. It's innovative, I can say without reservation. It's a world first. We've tried to make it as comprehensive as we can. I've been very, very fortunate in terms of having an exposure really to healthcare. As Christina mentioned, was a physician many years ago, founded and ran a large many hospital group in South Africa. We also invested in the UK. We bought the HMI, and was involved really in the independent sector treatment centers that were rolled out. So worked with Tony Blair on that project 20 years ago, and then invested in Canada. We service 94,000 residents and deliver 38 million prescriptions to them. It's part of new innovation. It's robotic on 1,500 campuses. So putting all the stuff together, having a look in terms of the opportunities and what happens, I think, as you're all aware, the life expectancy has increased significantly. I think most important, quality has also improved, and I don't see this slowing down. In fact, I think that as technology advances in medicine occur, we'll see that number even, increasing. And I'm sure, many of you know and perhaps have family who have already turned 100, right? And it's not that uncommon. And it's really a privilege to share this exciting venture and project with you. So, what is the new old? The truth is, I don't know, but I know that it's not the old. So before 60 or 65, this was the retirement age. I think Christina and I qualify for that retirement. I'm 67.
Not 65 yet. Yeah, sadly, very close.
I'm 67 and, definitely not retired. Life Plan Resorts Lisbon is our first venture. We're already looking at 3 alternative sites in the Algarve, and believe that Portugal really can have 4,000 to 5,000 units because it's ideally placed and situated. Not many people sit and think and plan. The one unknown is, when will we pass? How long will we be here for? But what if you do live to 100? Concerns for people aging, you can see there, inflation, unfortunately, is outstripping pensions and income. Quality healthcare access is becoming more of a problem, and governments are struggling. And this may even be just at a primary care level. Adjusting to the lifestyle. And I think this is the most important theme or tenet of what we want to do at Life Plan Resorts. So kind of aging, you'll see we've stayed away from the words retirement from seniors, because retirement is a connotation of something ending, right? And coming to Life Plan Resort is exactly the opposite of really what maybe people see in terms of someone in a dark room, isolated, lonely, suffering from depression, looking out the window, and just hoping the phone will ring or someone will come and visit them. When you come to Life Plan Resort, we celebrate life. You come there to live, you come not to die, and we're going to help you to live the best life that you can, in terms of really offering a holistic solution to all of these concerns, but also just embracing science and also what's changed really in what's happening in terms of older adults, and an integrated system. So if we could move to the next slide, please. Christina did mention some of the features. We found a beautiful property. It's in the nature reserve. It will be environmentally friendly in every aspect possible. 510 hectares is 1,270 acres. It's a huge, huge property. Very, very fortunate to have it. And on the west side, we have a 2.8 kilometer river frontage, so sunsets will be gorgeous. And in essence, what we really are establishing is an active living resort that focuses on healthy aging, brain vitality, and most important, fun. And if we can move to the next slide, I'll share with you the latest research that's been done. All of this is evidence-based on a lot of papers coming from eminent institutions. I think that if we perhaps start on the right-hand side, Alzheimer's is becoming epidemic. I can tell you that in California, where I reside, the third most common cause of death for older adults is now Alzheimer's. And just demystifying what it is, Alzheimer's creates plaque on the brain. And basically, there's three main buckets, right, that can aggravate or cause this. One is circulatory issues. So these would be your normal common diseases. And unfortunately, as you age, you will pick some of these up. I can tick one or two already, off this. There's just ways really to deal with all of these by managing these problems. So the circulatory issues, and it's almost like the more you can wash the brain. The brain is unique. It's 3% of the mass of the total body. It gets 20% of the blood flow coming out of the heart, and it consumes 30% of the oxygen in the body, right? So your most critical organ, and it's also, in terms of market research, the one area where progress has really been slow, despite billions and billions of investment. There are currently 187 trials on dementia, on Alzheimer's. There is one or two drugs that have come out with side effects at a high cost, but I believe that we'll see improvements in this over the next 5 to 10 years. Toxins, very obvious in terms of heavy smokers, and then also just what's added to our food in terms of what we ingest. And I think one of the things I always overeat when I come to Portugal, but I never feel as bloated and uncomfortable as when I overeat in the US. So gastronomy, is one of the things that's really strong. You're rated 4th in the world, and we'll talk, we'll refer to it a little bit later. And then chronic inflammation, now we know a lot more about. Part of this is obesity, and then all the autoimmune diseases. So these are the main causes, and also what we need to look at to prevent this plaque buildup. Longevity as really now the research has shown that you have these main 5 factors, and socialization still remains the most important. You have little villages in Italy where the men meet in the morning, they smoke. By 2 o'clock, they've already finished a few bottles of wine. they're playing cards, they're playing games, they're laughing, and they live to the mid-90s, right? They defy science. So socialization, and I think everyone can relate to this in terms of stimulating the mind, in terms of activities of doing things. So out of these, I would say that socialization in terms of a contributor is probably 25 to 30%. Physical activity is probably 30 to 35%. And you can see the physical activity will really help in terms of the circulatory issues, inflammation, etc. And it's just a question really of what you'll see at Life Plan Resorts is just so many options really to address all of these issues. Diet and nutrition, we'll have organic gardens, we'll have dietitians, and the whole idea is really to create a concierge type of service where we are offering a tailor-made program really for each member that's at Life Plan Resort. I think the unique thing for this, because continuum care retirement communities or life plan communities have been around for a century, they're not common in Europe. And basically, it's where you have your independent living, and then should your health status change on the same site, you'll be able to move to whatever is needed. One is to bring in more home care, bring in caregivers into your apartment, so it delays the separation between partners. A very, very important aspect, because everyone knows when one partner gets isolated, needs to go to dependency, both really deteriorate and go downhill. They may be separated on the site, but they'll always be able to go and spend hours and visit with them. The chronic, so you have that concept, and then you have really the continuum of care. What's missing worldwide is the ability really to manage the chronic diseases. And this is one of the greatest benefits that Portugal offers, and why one of the main reasons we selected this, because we wanted an integrated solution, is the quality of healthcare in Portugal is excellent at a very, very low cost. So we will be in the enviable position where basically we can have doctors on site, we'll have a gerontologist, we'll have visiting specialists, and be able to monitor, and then with telemetry now, really control these diseases much better, which will really delay the onset of dementia and loss of cognitive function. And then new really to the world is the whole realm of a brain gym, or exa gym, as many call it, where now we can measure cognitive function very, very accurately. We can measure someone's cognitive function, start them and say, and there's a lot of research out there in terms of start them doing, for example, art, a lot of resistance, and then 8, 10, 12 weeks down the line, we retest and there's a cognitive improvement of 20%. What the research has shown is that you present them with 2 or 3 challenges, so whether it's doing art, whether it's learning a new language, doing poetry, whatever the case may be, just whatever their interests may be, that you can improve their cognitive function by 30%. So we know a lot more about it, and I think what we've tried to do is really offer the most comprehensive solution, to all of these, and address everyone's interests in terms of keeping their mind active and helping them to socialize. So if we can go to the next slide, we'll show you the facilities that will be developed. I'm going to go quickly. This will be available for you, so I'll just pick out the highlights. I think the beauty of LPR and why we can offer so much is because of the scale, so the size of the property. We intend to have 1,400 independent living units, and then the continuum of care beds. This would be if your health status changes, but if you do go to hospital, need a hip replacement, you can come back. We'll have rehab facilities. So before you go back to your villa or apartment, we'll make sure that you're steady and it will be comforting in terms of managing that. And then respite or hospice care, so that you can really be with your loved ones, at that time. The Healthy Aging Pavilion, and if we have time, we'll talk more around the health, but this is really a huge passion. And I think it can be done a lot better than has been done everywhere else in the world. AI, we already have two machines at our sales office. There's great data and great feedback that's coming. You'll have a central village, and we'll see it on the next slide, but basically offers you so many choices. There'll be 7 different restaurants, cultural center, so those people that maybe have an interest of different clubs, photography, bird watching. You will own the club, right? And can decide, what those clubs would be, and really an opportunity to explore and learn new things. The cinema, co-working space, many people who turn 65 are still working, maybe less, but there'll be co-working space with secretarial services available. And then obviously fitness, indoor pools, classes for Pilates, for yoga, movement, etc. Retail, beauty salon, skin health products, travel agencies. It'll all be in the central village where you can access. And with Portugal being so well positioned in Europe, we believe that there'll be great opportunities to explore and visit with comrades, with people with people that you've met. And then the outdoor pursuits is really to encourage the active living side. There's water sports, so we want people to challenge themselves. We want people to do things that they've never done. And lawn bowls will be there. I know it's popular in the UK as it was in South Africa. And more and more of these would really be available. I think most important is accommodation for staff. We want to attract and retain high quality staff, trained. We'll have caregivers that are accredited, living on site and being close by. There'll be a hotel, and the hotel really is for family, for friends to come. There'll be specials through your club membership. You'll be given opportunities, a discount for family, a spa, and then I think importantly, a pet park and hotel. So people are there who want to go and visit their children, perhaps in Australia for 2 months or 3 months. We'll have your pet hotel and take care of your other loved one. I think importantly, we have also looked in terms of, and I know, and I am one of the technophobics, is a techno hub. So for the first time, people will be able to come in, sit with people who have patients, to take them through, help them in terms of how their phones work, how to set up their iPads, how to do a lot of things. And they'll be able to send to their family and grandchildren, just what I think a lot of people have done. Mentioned organic gardens, where basically couples could have their own dedicated space, an animal farm, and if we have time, we'll talk through that. I think another way of looking in terms of what we're offering and what we're selling is friendships. You're going to meet people, because wherever you are, you may say, well, I have friends now. Yeah, and you're 100% right. And I can socialize and I can go out and I can do all these things. But as you get closer to 100, you'll be able to do less of these. You may outlive your friends. You won't be able to drive. Your hearing deteriorates. There's just been studies showing now that in terms of just managing hearing can make such a difference, because as the hearing deteriorates, they don't want to go to noisy places, to restaurants, so they start to isolate more, and it just becomes a bit of a vicious cycle. Let's go to the next slide, please. This is just another way of looking at it, and I think that we've covered really most of these. I think most important, this is all really evidence-based. The plan is something that I think many people don't anticipate or spend enough time on, in terms of that financial certainty, because without knowing, how long you're going to live, it's, will you have enough savings? And what will be your major costs. So I think what we've tried to do is offer financial certainty, and it's one of the big attractions really, of Portugal, in terms of the lease arrangements that we can provide and do as part of the life leases. We have also a big focus in terms of the luxury resort, high end. So very fortunate to get what I call the czar of hospitality. This is Fernando, who's joined us, and he has worked all over the world, has been involved with Discovery Land high-end resorts. And we met him at Chileno Bay. It's like an 8-star resort, and when you come and visit us, you'll really get a feel in terms of the level that we're looking to provide, on site. Next slide, please. So this is basically not the whole property. It's about 2/3 of the property. We have 36 holes. There's a lot of cork trees, and I think many of you know the cork trees are close to sacred. And so it was difficult really to plan and the accommodation. Fortunately, with 36 holes, we don't believe we need it. We'll retain 18. We'll make an executive course of 9, which is really more suitable for people as they age. And you can, instead of going out for 4 hours, it's 2 hours, and you can do it 5 times a week. So the remaining fairways give us the opportunity really to build something very attractive, and we'll show you some of those in a minute. Spoke earlier about the central village. It's the blue part in the center. And if you do a radius around that of 1 kilometer, so just to give you an idea, the distance from the central village to the waterfront, is about 900 meters. It's not steep, so this is very conducive for walking to the village, to getting those steps in, to getting the exercise, etc. The racket club, and then you'll see memory care is in a great spot on the water. We'll do some special things. We've looked at the pods. This is the new way really of addressing this. And obviously, if a loved one, needs memory care, it's really a 3-minute drive, to be with them. And then just the various areas, the Forest Haven, you can see is more villas. And then we have apartments as well. This site will be entirely secured. We have a wall on the eastern side. On the southern side, we have the water on the west. So this map is not orientated correctly, but there'll be a promenade of 2.5 kilometers where you can walk, cycle, etc., with different stops and different things to look at. A gated entrance, which would be controlled, and security will obviously be paramount. This will be open to the public, but they would have to register if they want to come to restaurants, etc. They would need advance bookings, and we'd have the controlled access to this. Okay, to the next slide, please. There's a choice of villas, apartments, townhouses, and there'll probably be studios. The cost of these is not to purchase. This is an indicative cost really of the life lease, which I'll explain in more detail. So it starts at just under 500,000 euros, up to 1.1 million, and you can rent this. We don't advise, it doesn't make sense. And the life lease option really is the preferred option. And you'll see that in really through this innovative funding structure, that we have. So if we can go to the next slide. So why we chose Portugal? I think many of the Many of the advantages have already been discussed, but the low cost of living, just to give you an idea, the estimates are that compared to the UK, it could be 20 to 30% lower. To the US, probably more. And one of the costs in terms of the dependency care, we know we've tried to make it as affordable as possible, is probably 50% of what it costs on average. I know in terms of the US that these life plan communities, the inflation is 8.1%. They've just increased minimum wages, so that's going to grow at 10% per annum, and people will just run out of savings, and it's going to be hugely problematic. The 300 days of sunshine, and a lot of this, spoken around the safety, the gastronomy, and then the quality of healthcare. Portugal is ranked 7th and in terms of all the OECD countries. Just to give you an idea, the US comes in at about a lousy 27th. This looks at quality versus cost. Very advantageous and an important factor, in planning, for the future. What I found, the people just to be so warm in Portugal, so accepting. It's multicultural. Settling in will be very, very easy. We went through the immigration of moving from South Africa to the US, and it was tough. The first 2 years with teenage kids wasn't easy. Portugal is really so welcoming, and you'll feel at home. And obviously, coming into this environment, you'll be meeting new people, and we'll be facilitating that through club activities, etc. The morality and the ethics and the family values is really what is another big appealing factor, really, for me. The regulatory environment is a lot simpler to navigate in terms of what we want to do. And then the third item on the right, there's a comodato. And a comodato is unique to Portugal. It's basically a life right. So you can enter into a lease for your apartment, for your villa, which gives you the right to stay there until you pass away, or alternative, obviously, if you want to leave, you can. So this gives the protection of having a roof over your head, really forever, which is a huge benefit and not available, as to my knowledge, anywhere else in the world. The doctors on site and the chronic disease management we've spoken about. We're just finalizing an affiliation with a medical school in Nova Medical School, and we'll partner with them on their longevity research and development. So want to be at the forefront of new technologies, of what's happening. And the home care caregiver services we mentioned. We also have a structure of a club which empowers the members really to have a say in what they want, and also in terms of the costs, etc. It's also advantageous because VAT in Portugal is 23%. So all those trainers for your Pilates, for your yoga, other things, etc., would be included in the club fee, and we can make that at a lower cost without the VAT. And then I think unique, I mentioned the Brain Vitality Gym. So if we can go to the next slide. So just to give you an idea in terms of the costing and the innovative structure we have, if you look on the right and the resident or member, there's really 3 contracts. One is your lease, right? And this is structured just for it to be tax efficient. And then you have your bundled services, which is your HOA. But these bundled services will include all utilities, television, internet, etc. We want it to be hassle-free. We want everyone to have the same level. And it obviously we can offer it at a lower price. So it'll include insurance on the buildings, landscaping, security on site, etc. And then your club membership, there's an entrance fee and then a monthly quota. So really, it's very simple, 3 agreements. I can tell you that it took us a long time. The agreements we've used Quattro Casa, which is a huge legal firm, and then also other advisors on this. Ernst & Young are our auditors, and the structure for the property will be a SICAFI, which is regulated by the CMVM, which is the equivalent of a stock exchange like the London Stock Exchange or the Securities Council in the US. So we would have to be audited. We will make sure that your investment and what happens there is all above board and safe, and should give you really a lot of extra comfort. I've just used for illustrative purposes on the left-hand side an entrance fee, and the entrance fee really comprises your life lease purchase, and this we used for a villa, a 2-bedroom villa for a couple. And basically, we've said there's a separate fee of 30,000 for a second person. But if the villa life lease was 800,000, that's the 830. The refundable club membership is 100,000 per person. And then we've just estimated other costs in terms of your visa, relocation, furnishing, etc., of approximately 70. So this gives you an idea. Obviously, if you choose a unit that's 500,000, this is going to be 300,000 to 400,000 less. I think the most important and significant part is really the monthly fees, right? So for a single individual, so the upfront life lease covers the rental, and then your bundle services, you can see, would be 700 for single and 900 for couple. And then your club quota is 800 per person. So it's 1,500 euros a month and 2,500 euros per month for a couple. And this obviously excludes your food, but does include, as I said, all your utilities. The entrance fee that's payable is if the lease is for 20 years. So we're assuming people, with an average age coming in and with the life expectancy. But should you leave for any reason before the 20 years, there'll be a refund, right? And I've just shown you to illustrate if you leave basically within the first 3 years, you'll get more or less 70% back or more. You can see even after 10 years of staying at the Life Plan Resort, you'll get 50% back. After 20 years, it switches to a comodato, and you will always get your 200,000 back from your club fee, right? So which is more or less 20% on this example. It would be higher, obviously, on the other. But this, if you compare in terms of what you'll get, the 5-star accommodation, 10-star service with all the healthcare, all the wellness, etc., we believe is super, super competitive. And in the US, this is probably 40% of the monthly costs. So if we can go to the next slide. And this is just to show the benefit of the life lease. So what we did here is we said that if you, at 65, if you were renting in a similar type of accommodation, it would be around 2,750 euros per month. If that escalated at 3%, you'll see you would need, and you live to 100, you would need 2 million euros. The life lease would cost you 830. So it's less than half price, and you can live to 105, and it's the same cost, and a huge, huge advantage. And I think one of the biggest financial advantages in terms of what Life Plan has to offer. Okay, the next slide, please. So this is the sales office. It was just completed in April, 450 square meters. We have guest houses, and you're invited to come and spend the night, enjoy the facilities, play a round of golf. We'll show you around. You can see some of the water sports already that we're looking to do. I included the horse on the side because it's really one of the new innovations, and we can talk about later, time permitting. But just wanted to give you an idea in terms of nature, in terms of the river. On the website, there's even nicer videos. There's a drone video, that goes all along the river, which is really beautiful. Okay, next slide, please. So these are the apartments. So this is a bird's eye view in terms of nestled in between the cork trees, in between the forest. We can go to the next slide. So just more a frontal view. Our height restriction is 3 stories. There would be underground parking here, and there'll also be parking for golf carts. We think that that's going to be a main mode of transport, but we will have shuttles running around and transporting people or those that need assistance, but really want to encourage people, to walk. And I think these apartments are also will really be conducive to meeting people and having central areas where they can aggregate with swimming pools. This is just a view from above. It says work in progress, and they'll only get better and better. And you can see the bikini trim on the cork trees. They get cut every 9 years, and that cork is one of Portugal's greatest industries. Next slide, please. Just another view, just in terms of the paths, the walking, and obviously this will be really geared in terms of should people have wheelchairs, walkers, whatever. It's not going to be the cobblestones you find in Lisbon, right? It will be very friendly. Just another view, and yeah. Okay, and the next. So just want to spend just 2 minutes quickly. The floor plan. So the architects we've used are from California, from Santa Barbara. They've been involved in senior housing, and these comply with California standards, right? And one of the big things is, most people coming into independent living will, be able to run into their apartment and move very freely. But, as you get closer to that 100 mark, right, you may need, so a big focus on accessibility. You can see the open plan in terms of if you come in, the dining area, the lounge area, that's all glass going onto a patio, very bright, very light. You can see a modern kitchen, and we'll have all the amenities. These are included, in terms of the apartment you select. And then just on the primary bedroom, walk-in closet through to a large bathroom, and then a second bedroom on that side. We have a den there as well, which can be used as an office, can be converted into additional sleeping space. But I think thinking forward, that should you need caregiver attention and home care, that can be converted really down the line to that. And we will have somewhere there's 2 levels, and there would be the opportunity to put in a stairwell and elevator in terms of going up to the other level, and just improve views really of the river through the trees. You can see the spacing, 135 square meters. That excludes the garage. So very spacious, a lot of planning, a lot of thinking, and these will be spectacular. And we just finishing off renderings. Next slide. It's just a 3-bedroom, just shows you really that extra bedroom added, and just the flow, and just the attention to detail. That's here, that you just don't see doors from the living spaces, and just this open plan really with your kitchen, and very functional, whatever at whatever stage you may be. Okay, next one, please. So this is just one of the earlier renderings. You can see trying to fit in you know, with nature, wood, stone, and you know, just the very best finishes. We're also looking at modular construction, which will speed up really the timing. Next slide, please. So this is from the patio side, really, you know, in terms of space, you know, coming out from that dining and living area, and then the bedroom, you know, on the other side. And the next slide. And there'll be different models. So this is Fernando saying welcome. And I think the next thing is really that, you know, in terms of getting more information, is sign up for the newsletter on our website. It will be informative, and also really you will be able to we'll have cameras in time on site in terms of how this construction, the building is going, where it is. Schedule a Zoom call with our salespeople. We'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions. But I think most important is really an invitation to come and enjoy our hospitality. Come and stay a night, 2 nights, enjoy the area, visit Lisbon, meet the people, you know, that you'll be living with. We're looking to have 4 guest houses. So when you come, you'll probably be with 3 other couples. So you already will meet people. And we're excited. We, you know, everyone, we have close to 20 reservations. And for the first 50 reservations, there's for founder members, there's a 50,000 euro discount. Just to secure that is really to sign an enrollment form or booking to book your, you know, to book your spot in the queue. And then obviously we'll provide all the documentation and assist. And then with Global Citizens on the other side, we want to make this move as painless as possible, as efficient, and help you really to come and live in, I think, for me, one of the greatest countries in the world. It's going to be huge growth. It's going to become more and more popular, and you're just so well positioned. It's 6.5 hours to the US. The UK is 2 hours, and Europe is on your doorstep. And last slide, really just to say thank you to the Chamber for organizing this, and really appreciate the opportunity.
It's an absolute pleasure, Jack, to have you with us. I should add, for everybody watching, the golf course has been running for years. It's very well established at Life Plan. You've already got amazing food and beverage options on site. Your chef is incredibly high quality, and you've got the water sports as well. So I urge everybody to go down and visit, talk to your guys on the ground, because that way you get a real flavour of how mature and beautiful the whole area is already. And you're only half an hour from Lisbon. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for sticking with us. Because Jack had a long tale to tell, we are running a little bit late. But I'd like to spend the next 5 or 6 minutes on questions, because we've got a lot of questions from our audience. Here are the full contact details of both our speakers. So if you can't wait or you're in a hurry, just email your questions to either of these gentlemen, Jack or Adalberto. But I'd just like to take some questions from our audience now. And also we had quite a lot of questions from our audience before the webinar. So I'm going to direct the first question to Adalberto. And Adalberto, a couple of people have asked us, how does the tax system in Portugal attract or affect foreign retirees? I mean, there were some tax benefits for retirees until a year and a half ago, but that's not true anymore, is it? What sort of tax will retirees be paying on their passive income? It'll be the normal Portuguese income tax rates, won't it?
Unfortunately, yes. So at the end of last year, the government decided to eliminate, well, the previous government, I should say, decided to eliminate the NHR program. And now, although there is a new NHR program, it does not target retirees. It's really targeted towards certain professions around STEM and healthcare. But with the new government now in place, it's possible that we see some changes to that, but at this moment, it would be the existing rate, which
So just
depending
to
on.
clarify, lady, just to clarify for our audience, one thing is your visa, which Adalberto and his crew will arrange for you. The second thing is once you're resident in Portugal, you insert yourself into the Portuguese tax regime, which, because you're a foreigner, is weirdly called the NHR, the non-habitual tax regime, non-habitual residence regime. So that is the regime that will administer the tax for anybody living on the passive income or under the D7, or if they are still working under the D8 visa. So at the moment, the NHR regime is not that, there's no special, the tax regime has no special benefits for retirees, but we're waiting to see if that may change. Now, we had another question from our audience member, re the D7 visa. What figure should be budgeted over the 5-year period for a husband and wife making such an application to reside in Portugal under the D7 in terms of fees and professional costs? Adalberto, perhaps, how does that work? Do companies like yourself charge an upfront fee to help the couple process everything, and then presumably nothing after that? How does it work?
Right. So it will vary, of course, from provider to provider. We have a set fee that we charge for the services, but that can vary slightly depending on each individual case. What I would advise to be done is to get in touch with me, and then I can provide a personalized quotation.
Okay. And what are the legal requirements, Adalberto, for staying long-term in Portugal as a retiree? One of our audience is planning on moving there soon, but there are no legal requirements. Once you're there, you become tax resident, you get your residency permit for 5 years, and then it keeps renewing. I mean, you just live there as a resident, don't you? There's no legal problems or restrictions.
That's correct. So once your residency card is obtained, then there is nothing further. It is important to mention the distinction between civil residency, which is what the D7 or other residency cards give you, to tax residency, which is a separate issue. Tax residency is obtained once you've spent a significant amount of time, over 183 days a year in Portugal, or once you make Portugal your primary place of residence.
Yes, but anybody applying for a D7 visa or a D8 visa would be moving to Portugal and would expect to pay tax there, because there'd be no point applying for a D7 or a D8 visa if you weren't going to move there permanently. Just as a shorthand for our audience, if anybody is interested in getting a visa for Portugal, but not actually living there, not moving there, not being resident for tax purposes, and you're a non-EU citizen, then that is when you might think about the golden visa, which you may have heard about. But that's a separate issue. We're not really discussing that today. Okay, one last question on visas, and then we're going to come to health. One of our listeners, Zahid Latif from Pakistan, is living in Pakistan, and he is a Pakistani, Adalberto. So he's worked 18 years in Qatar as a computer consultant. How would he get a D7 visa? He'd apply in his consulate, would he?
That's correct. So each location has a designated consulate that caters to it. So it would be through that consulate that the application will be processed.
Right. And similarly, Mr. Arun Sawal here in London asks, how does he get an appointment to submit a D7 visa application in the UK? He applies at the consulate here in London, but the consulate then actually subcontract the visa appointments to a company called VFS, don't they?
Yes, they do, and we understand that they have had a large amount of demand, so it can take time, and sometimes the consulate stops issuing availability. Our team, of course, can assist in scheduling appointments as well.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So now I'd like to turn to health. We're getting a lot of questions about health insurance, obviously health matters because of Jack's presentation. Now, Adalberto, this is a practical issue about health. Arun Sawal is asking, does the EHIC card from the UK meet the requirements for health insurance cover in Portugal? The answer is yes, but only to the level of the national health service that Portugal would offer. You get equivalent National Health Service in Portugal as you would in the UK.
Yes, that's correct. And it has its own limitations as well, which is why, as Jack explained, they have a more attractive proposition.
That's right. Just to recap for our visitors, the EHIC card is something that everybody in the UK has to apply for. You don't get it automatically. You have to apply for it. I've got one, that's how I know. And then if you were to be visiting Portugal and you have a car accident or trip in the street or something, and someone takes you to the emergency room, you show your EHIC card. And even the fact that we're not in Europe anymore, it obliges the Portuguese National Health Service to treat you the way that they would treat a Portuguese person who had tripped in the street or broken their leg or something like that. But I mean, you would get the basic level of service, that's it. Okay. So turning to the healthcare system, Adalberto, the Portuguese healthcare system works for retirees in the sense that once you arrive in Portugal, you're living in Portugal as a retiree or working, and you're resident for tax purposes, you then are eligible, because you're a resident, for the Portuguese national health system, which again provides the basic level of insurance, or I should say the basic level of treatments. Could you just tell us what people do? Do foreigners also take out private medical insurance in Portugal?
Yes, it's actually very, very common because, yes, you will have access to healthcare once you move to Portugal. Once you obtain your residency card, you can just go to a local hospital and register. However, as we see in the UK with the delays, it's not to that same extent in Portugal, but private health insurance is something that we see the vast majority of our clients obtaining, because you get a greater level of care, and you can see a physician much quicker when necessary.
And Jack, turning to life plan residents, if somebody goes to live at life plan with you and your team, what sort of a lot of them will have private healthcare insurance, presumably as well, which isn't very expensive in Portugal because it tends to be based around the hospital group that you're insured with. But you in life plan would have a whole mechanism to make any healthcare needs that your community have very, very easy. I mean, yours is wraparound care, whatever you need. Is it? Perhaps you could explain a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I think the big advantage, and just to give the audience an idea, private health insurance in Portugal is between 3,500 and 4,000 per annum, right? So very, very reasonable, and that gives you access, to private healthcare. And there's obviously different levels, and there's nothing around preconditions being excluded or anything. That's why, that regulatory, it's just very easy, very simple. There's virtually no litigation in terms on the healthcare side. But, what we're looking to offer is access to healthcare on demand. We, in fact, want to have and monitor every club member. Will have telemetry, right? So basically, we'll be able to monitor pulse, blood pressure, pulse ox, etc., sugar, and as time goes, I'm sure this is going to just become more and more advanced. We'll also have a panic button, right, in terms of if people are in trouble, so to have a wearable that they can activate, and with a large site like this, it's got a GPS, so. We'll be at the cutting edge in terms of what that is, but, on site, we will, in the Healthy Aging Pavilion, have nurses, have PAs, have assistants, really, that can take care. They can pop in to get their blood pressure done, on a daily basis. And, we'll monitor, and we'll know, for example, with diabetics, exactly where they are and when they're getting into trouble, perhaps before they even start having symptoms. So I think that's the idea, is around wellness. It's around prevention. And then for, the basic primary care stuff, we can deal with that immediately. And then also have the specialized services. We'll have a geriatrician or gerontologist, on site. And then, all the common issues, chiropody, audiology, optometry, etc. Would be available.
Okay. And Jack, at LifePlan, if I opt in and become a member, or I buy a life lease at LifePlan, obviously I'm going to use my home there a lot, but can I also let my friends and family stay if I'm not there?
Yeah, so anyone that comes to stay, any guests have to register, just so that we retain and have a control. There may be an additional fee if they're going to use other facilities, etc. And there are club discounts for the members and for their families. So sure, if people want to come and live together and to be there, and whether it's short stay, medium, as long as they register, they're more than welcome,
Oh, okay. I'd like to thank Peter Allen, our guest, for correcting me. Thank you, Peter. You're right. The EHIC card that I referred to that you apply for in the UK is now called the GHIC card since 2021. The reason I called it the EHIC card is my card hasn't run out yet, so they expire after 5 years, I think. So I will realise next year, I think, when it runs out, that it's now called the GHIC card. Thank you, Peter, for that. Other questions we've got are, just before we finish, is somebody's asking if there's going to be a future webinar about the golden visa option. Yes is the answer. We weren't covering it today because we do it a lot. Today was about health, wellness, aging, longevity, and different ways of living in Portugal. I think my final question is going to be to Jack. So Jack, a couple of people have asked me about the types of retirement communities or senior living options available in Portugal, because there are quite a lot of senior residents in Portugal who are currently living in their properties in Portugal, or you can live in your house in Portugal, your normal home where you've always been. There are quite a lot of nursing homes now in Portugal for older people who need 24/7 care, because traditionally in Portugal, the older generation would tended to be looked after by their children, but that is changing quite a lot over the last 10 or 15 years. So there are now nursing homes in Portugal themselves. But Jack, just to reiterate, there is nothing like LifePlan, is there, in Portugal or in Europe? I mean, this concept of your holistic, brain-friendly, new aging, or an innovative approach to aging is unique, is it not? Perhaps you could tell us why that is the case. Why has nobody done this before?
Yeah, so I think there are other options, and particularly on the dependency side. And those options are not always free because they're subject to a means test. And in various countries in Europe, there's co-pays, etc., that go with it. But I think what's really unique in terms of what we're offering is almost that independent living scenario, and then with a medical center of excellence that's attached, that can cater really for your diseases, and then should your health status change, we can move you along, but try and slow that down, as quickly as possible. And what's unique about this, just even from a global perspective, is really having the doctors on site, and that's just only because of the high quality of healthcare at a low cost, in Portugal. It would, in nowhere in the US, because of, the litigation, the high costs. So what happens is people may have 4 or 5 diseases, or seen 4 or 5 specialists, and it's just not well coordinated. And you can imagine, the statistics are that people over 65 will visit the doctor on average 10 times a year. So you can imagine just the traveling, the waiting, the taking, coordinating, the testing results, etc. This just really makes it, so much more efficient. And with time, we want to teach everyone how to use apps, and that will make it even easier for them to access, to make appointments, to get notifications, etc.
And Jack, as always, you're finding, now you're talking to the general public and people are signing up, you're finding that one big attraction of the LifePlan concept is that if you have a couple in their 70s or so, one of whom is healthy, but unfortunately the other is becoming dependent, either through Alzheimer's or dementia or some other. What you're finding, which you weren't necessarily expecting, is that those couples can move to Life Plan and actually stay together while taking pressure off the healthy part of the couple, because the iller partner in the couple has external support, which gives a break to the healthy member of the couple. Is that not correct?
Sure. No, absolutely. And you know, as unfortunately as you age and your cognitive function starts to fail, you know, the family become the caregivers, and it's hard on the family. It's really not best for the older adults, right? And there's an environment here where, you know, we can help and offer professional advice and services, you know, as they needed.
And just to finish, I'm right in thinking, I think that you're expecting all nationalities at Life Plan. I mean, the British market is key to you because the English love Portugal so much already, and so many already look to Portugal for their retirement. But you are expecting a lot of Brits already resident in Portugal to come and live there, and other nationalities are showing interest, are they not?
Well, there has been an interest from you know, a lot that have settled in the Algarve, you know, because really, if you do run into health issues in the Algarve, you know, there's just not, it's not comprehensive in terms of a full service, you know. So if you you know, have cancer, it's they, you know, looking to move closer to Lisbon, to hospitals, you know, instead of going back home, because I think a lot of people, you know, have that are faced with these challenges, you know, decide to leave Portugal. They don't want to, but just for health purposes. I think we have an alternative now, and once we set up in the Algarve, you know, there'll be a reciprocity, and it will become a lot easier for everybody.
That's your second option. Right, ladies and gentlemen, on that note, I would like to thank you very much for your patience. We have overrun by half an hour, but we had a big story to tell. So thank you for your patience. Any questions you have, or if you want to talk to Adalberto or Jack directly, please email them. We will shortly be sending out all the contact details to you and the presentations, and we'll release the recording tomorrow on our website. But if I may give heartfelt thanks to Jack Chevelle from Life Plan Resorts. Thank you, Jack. And also to our friend and colleague Adalberto Puca from Global Citizen Solutions. I'd also like to thank my wonderful chamber team of Scott and Tamara, who have been working behind the scenes on various technical issues we had earlier. So thank you to everybody, and see you in London on the 17th of October at the next Moving to Portugal show. Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.